you can have the best rehab program in the world, the best guy, whatever. But it doesn't matter if you see them 3, 4, 5 times a week. If you don't follow through on the rest of the other 160 odd hours of the week,
hmm
you're not going to get the result you're looking for.
One of the people I see a lot on the forums are mothers who are just so sad because they can't pick up their toddler.
Oh,
You have any tips for moms looking to pick up their kids?
yeah. So basically, I just had this literally 2 weeks ago. I had a mother breakdown.
Welcome to this episode of Bed Back and Beyond. Today I am joined by Bash Back Pain's Colin MacGregor. Colin used his own expertise and determination to overcome a herniated disc in 2005. He is joining me today to talk about his experience, but also to share his program that he has created to help others overcome their back pain. If you are someone who is currently suffering with a herniated disc or in any kind of back pain and you are looking for hope, join this podcast family. My goal is to share positive stories of recovery from serious neck or back pain to provide hope to those of you who are currently in pain. Colin, thank you so much for joining me on the Bed Back and Beyond podcast. Before we dive into your injury, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. It's really nice. I'm really happy to, be with somebody who's trying to help people suffering with back issues and to share some good stories. Yeah, I'm actually originally from Scotland, although my accent is long gone because I've lived abroad for almost 20 years now. I lived for 6 years in the US. I was in Northern New York, Connecticut for between 2002 2008. And I've been in the Czech Republic actually for about 14, 15 years.
Oh.
So yeah, and I've been, I worked originally as I got into gym work and I've always been in athletics. So progression to be a coach on different sports. And then I got into strength and conditioning, personal training. And then more laterally after I injured my back, I got into more the rehabilitation side of things. So
Okay.
I guess I was called a rehabilitation specialist. We used to work with a lot of athletes, NHL athletes, but mainly between the season, and American football players, baseball players, college kids, college athletes, and we had general population as well. So we had a good mix of people when I was in the US. But yeah, a bit more recently, I've been helping more back people because of my own issues that I had previously. So that's pretty much what I've been doing this last few years.
And
Yeah.
you're in the Czech Republic right now?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here now. Yeah, for the time being. I mean, we're getting itchy feet, so we might move somewhere. But yeah, I
You're
work with
right,
some.
and I don't hear your accent at all.
No, no, especially when I'm talking on the, publicly. I tend to go back to how I used to speak in America, which is I'd enunciate all my words properly and slow things down. And I wouldn't say the word "we," for small. I would, yeah, use different words and stuff like that. So
How long were you in the US?
6 years, 6 years in
Okay.
total. Yeah, so 2002 to 2008.
Did you do training in the US or you just came over?
Yeah. I worked in it was an ice hockey performance center. So they would work with the NHL guys in the off season with band college kids. Yeah, there's all lacrosse is really big in New England, of course, but we had general pop as well. So we had like, your normal Wall Street guys, people working there locally, high school kids, high school athletes as well. So we had it was very mixed, the people you would get in the gym,
Okay.
really good experience. I mean, I got to work with, high level professional athletes, which was amazing, and then you're working with general population as well. And, people are injured. So you had a really good mix of different people to learn from as well, which was nice, and yeah, that's why I came to the US because you actually lead the way in a lot of ways and that kind of works. So I wanted to go with where the good money was and the good training was.
Okay. So were you considered a personal strength trainer?
Yes, yeah, you could
Okay.
say because we had a personal training studio, but we focused on the athletes on strength training. We had to get them strong and explosive for their sport. So it was kind of all encompassing. So yeah, I've got far too many bits of paper and qualifications, courses I
Yeah.
would go on and stuff like that. So yeah, I can't. I ended up calling myself like a rehabilitation specialist in the end
Okay.
because I'd done so many different things. I was like, I'll use that as a title. That'll do.
Right.
you know.
So had you worked with any clients with herniated disc before you had herniated your own?
No, actually, no. We used to get a lot of knee injury, ACL, PCL, ligament knee
Okay.
injuries, and generally shoulder issues, which was all mainly hockey, lacrosse based.
Mhm.
So that was it. We didn't have anybody. Yeah, nobody that had any back issues up until I had my own,
Okay.
actually. So that was an eye opener. Yeah.
So when was your injury?
I was just looking at my report the other day again because somebody asked me. It was March 2005. Yeah, because I remember the day it was still icy and I came out and the house I was in, like there was a slope, like when you're driving, it was a slight slope and it was tarmac or asphalt, as you would say. And I came out and it was like a layer of ice. So I know it
Mhm.
was like kind of still cold in the spring. And as I was as I turned to get in the car, I slipped a little bit. I caught myself, but I felt this like jab in my back. And that was the first time that I felt it.
Mhm.
So that was March.
Okay.
It wasn't that bad. It was sore and there was an issue. It was like, and luckily we had quite a few doctors as clients. So
Okay.
one guy was a neurologist and he said, "Oh, you need to go and speak to this doctor. He's hospital for special surgery in New York, but he has a practice up in Old Greenwich, which was maybe 10 minutes in the car from where I was, 15 minutes." So I went to see him. He was a physiatrist who are more conservative in their care management.
Right.
And he sent me off for the MRI. And at that stage, I need to look back at my notes, but it was a bulge,
Okay.
hadn't fully
Mm.
herniated, if I
Right.
remember correctly. So me being me at that stage, I didn't really take it that seriously. I'll be fine
Right.
about core work because it calmed down quite quick. And then it was months later, it was August, I got my next MRI, but I think I might have damaged it in July. I was squatting and, bar on your shoulders,
Right.
warming up. I was feeling good. I went to the bottom of the lift and it's called a butt wink where your butt tucks under. So you go into
Okay.
forward flexion, not a good squat technique,
So poor form.
very poor form. And I
Okay.
just felt this immediate like pain in the back and into my butt, the sciatica.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm gonna rack this and I'm gonna go home. And I went home and it was really bad. It got really bad. So when it's again got an MRI, probably a week or two later, I would imagine. And by that stage, yeah, it was a full herniation. The pressure on the nerve was much greater. They didn't actually write down the millimeter. It's quite. So I've got the two reports,
Uh-huh.
and they didn't actually write it down. They just said it was was it, paracentral right, blah blah blah, impinging on the nerve. So
Right.
I I would have to guess between 5 and 7 millimeters probably in that region,
Okay.
for that level. So that was August 2005. Yeah,
Okay.
was when I couldn't walk and stuff. Yeah, which was not good.
No.
No.
Did you try any kind of treatment for that first?
So I was kind of lucky in that I think it was during the summer, I signed up for this course with a French osteopath called Dr. Guy Voyer. And his thing was actually rehabilitating the spine using a form of decompression stretches, like
Okay.
myofascial stretches.
Mhm.
And it's basically, they call it el doigt in French. I can't explain the French translation or the French words, but in English it's loads, and it's longitudinal osteoarticular decompression system, I think is what it stands
Okay.
for. So I just started that course as I was kind of injured. So that was really helpful because he was able to treat me as well.
Oh, wow.
The doctor, the physiatrist, he's like, look, it is quite extensive. I think he says quite extensive, herniation. He's very conservative. We could do a shot as well if you want. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay. So the fluoroscopy, where you have the live MRI, and you
Right.
go in. So I took that, and because I like seeing what's going on, so I was watching the screen.
Oh,
And it was after the shot went in that it was really bad because we established that there was no space probably for the liquid to go that they inject. So it was really, really like it was about 10 days I was on the floor. So we got
oh,
the shot and I'm on the way home and I'm like, wow, this is getting worse. This is not better. And then the next day it was worse. And yeah, I had to take off work for like 10 days,
okay.
popping pills. So
Wow.
I think I spoke to him on the phone and he's like, yeah, he said it could be we hit the spot, but we've filled up the space. So there's no
Okay.
space for the liquid to go anywhere. And it's just all that is
Putting more
pushing on the
pressure.
nerve. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that was fine. But I was still doing my exercises from the French guy that I'd been given as well. So, you pop pills, you go back to work. Of course, because you don't work, you don't get paid, right?
Exactly.
So, and the course I was doing, it was, we were doing one weekend a month, I think we were doing, or 2 weekends a month we were doing, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I was also seeing the French guys, but I pretty much dove into the literature. Obviously I knew about core stability work, of course,
Hmm.
keeping moving, that kind of stuff. But I didn't touch a weight for 6 months. I pretty much just did. That was on the word of the French doctor that he said,
Okay.
look, you want to remove as much stress as possible. Focus on mobility, stretching the tissue. Strengthen your spine, like segmentally, like get it very strong. So I did a lot of core stuff in the gym, but I didn't touch a dumbbell for 6 months. So
Okay.
I wanted me to be in a good position. I was
Yes.
scared of messing up.
Right. Had anyone recommended surgery to you?
Yeah, so basically, I used to see a chiropractor who
Hmm.
did active release technique, which is a type of muscle tissue technique. He
Right.
did needling with the electric stimulation as well. He was a
Hmm.
good guy. And he's like, "Oh man, I can get you in next week. I've got the doctor, blah blah blah, surgery." And he's like, "Super easy, microdiscectomy, boom boom boom." And I'm like,
Hmm.
because I knew, I had obviously the sciatic pain, but I didn't have any issues with bowel movements. I didn't have there was no physiological reason to get it done other than probably instant pain relief, you
Right.
know. And
Hmm.
of course, when you do read the literature, it's like, well, most people, 89%, you're going to be okay, right?
Right.
So, and again, another doctor, we used to have a lot of doctors, he was head of orthopedics in one of the local hospitals. He was very much like, Colin, don't let anybody come at you with a scalpel, like with a knife. And he was a surgeon.
Right.
but, so, but he knew himself, once you start doing stuff, because there's a risk with any surgery.
Sure. Hmm.
So I had the offer, but I, politely declined, you know, for having it. So
Right.
yeah.
I do remember one of the most stressful things was all the different opinions
Oh
coming at
yeah,
me.
of
Do it,
course.
don't do it.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
hard. So it's hard to
It,
figure out which decision is right for you.
exactly, and especially today when you've got 10 million websites and blogs and
Mhm.
YouTube channels, and there's like it can be like paralysis by analysis, basically. Yeah.
So those 6 months that you didn't touch a weight,
Hmm.
how was that for you? I imagine you were having
Frustrating
some,
because
some withdrawal from weightlifting.
I worked in the gym, right?
Right.
So when I went back to work, after it was 10 days, 2 weeks, I went back to work and I was popping a lot of painkillers. I was popping, I think it was 4 Excedrin a day. So I'd do two and two.
Mhm.
I'd split them up. And along with Excedrin, I was taking a leave because it's obviously a different mode of pain relief,
Right.
and I did that. I almost 2 months because I remember I stopped at a leave because I knew that from doctors. They told me, after 4 to 6 weeks, it starts to erode your esophagus, like your stomach lining and stuff, and you start getting the heartburn sensation.
Right.
Like so that I started to get that kind of towards the end. Okay, I need to stop this, and then I changed. I
Okay.
think it was Lamisil. It's called.
Mhm.
It's a different one. So that was to get through the pain, but that was just the physical pain. But obviously, the mental side, I was going into work and you're surrounded by weights and people are exercising. And I
Right.
would, luckily it was a very personable place. So we knew all the clients, like it was everybody knew everybody. So they were cool. Like they knew I'd been injured. And I would say, hey, okay, John, I need you to get the two 10 kilo dumbbells. And he would go get them. Hey, what are we doing? Oh, we're doing this. And I would have to maybe sit I'd be sitting on a stool. Sometimes I'd be lying on the ground when it was later in the day. Like I would actually lie, kind of in McKenzie position, and
Right. Mhm.
tell the client to do stuff.
Wow.
So they
Wow.
were very forgiving. I mean, I would, if I was in a totally different environment, it could have been very different. But it was super frustrating. I mean, just you're watching all these people lift, and then you're just not. And
Right.
obviously, you're losing muscle tissue because even though you're walking and you're doing stuff, you're not stimulating your
You lose
muscle
all those
tissue.
gains.
Exactly. And it's the road back is just like, oh, it's gonna take forever.
Yeah.
So that was hard. Mentally, it was very hard. But I stuck to my guns and I was like,
Right.
I'm not going to touch anything until whatever it was, spring of 2006, I guess it would be.
Okay. And so do you remember how long it took you to start to see some pain relief sticking to your physical therapy program?
Yeah. So pretty much, I mean, that first 3 weeks, like when I got the severe pain, I couldn't walk.
Mhm.
10 days on my, just kind of lying, just because lying was fine. Sleep was
Okay.
okay. So, I didn't move. I had the pillow under my legs and stuff
Right.
like that. So I was lucky on that part. But just when I got up to stand, it was just absolute abject agony. So Obviously, from that initial pain, yes, after the 10 days, it had calmed down enough for me to go back with painkillers. It was just, and at that point, without the painkillers, it would just be a constant kind of pulsing, nagging, sometimes biting, depending on what move you did.
Right.
So I probably stopped the painkillers around about 2 months after, I would say.
Okay.
So I kind of took, I went just to Cedrin, then just one there because I stopped to leave, as I said.
Mhm.
And then for the sciatica to be gone completely, probably, well, okay, for it to be gone when I wouldn't feel it doing what I call normal things, was probably about 4 months, 5 months.
Okay.
Now, when I say normal things, sometimes because if I went on a long road trip, I would hire a car, like a nice car for the road trip or something. So I did a lot of road trips in the US. Depending on the car, because the seat, the bucket angle of the seat and stuff like that, or a
Right.
plane,
Mhm.
so I'd sit in a strange seat I've never sat in before. Sometimes you'd be like, oh, I can feel my leg coming on again. And it would
Right.
kind of be like this numb, tingling thing. But I'd get in the car and maybe walk around for half an hour, disappear. So that probably lasted another couple months. So to be completely sciatica free was about 8 months, if I remember,
Okay.
8 to 9. It was under the year. But as I said, there'd be these occasions where you'd be in a strange seat, just you're angled in a funny position, and you'd be like, "Poof, poof, poof." It was, oh, there it is. And literally, it would kind of go to sleep, and it would be like a cold. It would feel cold, but it wasn't. Like the sensation was, oh, it's my leg's cold, or it was kind of numb, like my
Mhm.
calf.
Yep.
And then you'd get out of the car and you'd be kind of like your leg's dead. And you move around a few minutes. So, but yeah, it did take a while for the full sciatica to go. But by that point, I was still doing. Like at 6 months, I was doing exercises,
Mhm.
even though there was still the occasional tweak depending on what I did. But I would say
Right.
fully gone 8 months from what memory anyway tells me.
Okay. And are you pain-free today?
Yes, I mean, I have a lot of other issues, but that's that's the story of my life. I carry a lot of injuries that don't affect me. I have no pain. I've got torn
Okay.
meniscus in my right knee. I've got torn labrum in my left shoulder, torn labrums in my hips, which is cartilage. It's a cartilage rim on the top of your femur and your socket in here. I've got damaged vertebrae in my neck from landing on my head. I've got what else? I've got some other. Oh, yeah, I've got no bone on one of my right elbow. I've got bone on bone in my right elbow, no cartilage. But when I
But
went
your
to see,
sciatica's fine.
yeah, but I have no pain from anything because I was seeing because I've got an orthopedic here. He used to work in America. He used to work in the US in Colorado actually, so he speaks like fluent English. He's a very funny guy. And when I was going for like my hip and stuff, he's like, because he said, look, well, yeah, when we discovered my torn meniscus, he goes, that's a grade 3. That should be operated. But how do you feel? And I was like, well, fine, I can do everything I need to do. He's, just leave it
Yeah.
till you're old. But he's funny because he's like Colin. He said, whatever you do, don't stop because your body's strong enough in all the joints that you're supporting all those injuries, which is great, right?
Right.
He says, most people never manage to do that, right? Because they take the option of surgery, but they still have to do strength work after surgery.
Right.
He says, and I know myself, usually I would say after 2 weeks, if I do nothing, and I mean like nothing, like go on a holiday where there's no activity like
Mhm.
snorkeling or walking or hiking, not my back, but I will start like my hip will get a bit stiff, and then like there's little things start to
Right.
creaking because so I know I'm going to always have to be doing work, strength work,
Right.
keep myself. But yeah, sciatica, no.
No.
Low back issue, no. I mean, don't get me wrong,
Okay.
I do stress it. I do various exercises which are very focused on that area with a lot of weight,
Mhm.
but I just do it. I don't go overboard, but I just do very, very good technique, and yeah, I don't worry. Let's put it that way.
That's great. Have
Yeah.
you had any MRI since then? Do you know if it's retracted or reabsorbed or anything?
I need to see because I had one and because it was in Czech. It's all been in Czech language because they were looking at my hips, and I know they'd said like you've got what do you call it? Like it's obviously shrunk because obviously
Mhm.
you're older now,
Okay.
you're almost 50, so obviously the disc material is gone, right? It's probably
Okay.
dehydrated. But I need
Right.
to go back and ask them because the guy was really nice. He says, look, if you want, because I said to him, I'd really like to get all my MRIs read properly myself so I can understand it better.
Mhm.
And because I can look at basic ones and say, oh yeah, that's a herniation. But there's other things. He goes, oh yeah, come in anytime and I'll translate it off you because he speaks perfect English, help you through it. because I think the one that they did my hips, it did include my spine, but they didn't do the report on the spine. If that
Right.
makes sense, you know what I
Yes.
mean? But
Hmm. Yeah, they were
you
only
can
looking
see
at the
through it.
hips.
So, but yeah, I mean, it might. I mean, I will be honest. I lifted something. No, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 4 years. Yeah, I think it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and it was very very heavy lift,
Hmm.
and I literally felt my spine just go like
Oh,
this,
jeez.
like be compressed. And it was the next day. I was like, "Do you feel something?" I was like, I mean, it was 800 and something pounds. It was a lot of weight,
Wow.
so I deserved to be, So I was like, it wouldn't surprise me if I tweaked it again. But I had no issue. Like I didn't have any sciatica or anything. But I literally felt myself getting smaller when I held the weight because
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
it was just bravado and stupidity. But yeah, I don't. It doesn't bother me because even if the herniation was still there, which some people it just sits like a gristly piece.
Right.
I have no issue with it, and that's one thing I tell people as well is like, would you rather get rid of the pain and get better, or would you
Hmm.
rather know like why it happened, or where this came from, or what's happening there? Like focus on the future, don't focus on the past.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I mean, maybe I don't want to know what's in there, but yeah.
So, during your rehabilitation, were there any core movements that you focused on initially?
Yeah, I mean, me initially mainly some sort of planking, just bracing
Oh,
essentially,
okay.
just a static plank, static brace. Um, just because there's no real movement involved with that. It's not like you're doing a kind of small curl up or like the McGill curl up or something like that. So yeah, I would do, and obviously when it came to movement, you're always moving your body around, so you have to kind of brace when you're trying to not hurt yourself.
Right.
So I started just with like the plank at an angle, like a push-up position. I was just kind of, I'd go on the back of the couch and kind of hold myself in that position. And that was the kind of one of the starting things I used to do
Hmm.
in the first 6 months. Yeah.
I see the McKenzie movements in the book recommended a lot. Do you have any
Yeah, I
personal
did
opinion
that.
on those?
Yeah. It's funny. So like anybody I work with and speak to, look, I says, here's the basic thing we'll start with. We're
Hmm.
going to adapt after week one because nerve glides work for some people. They don't
Hmm.
work for other people.
Okay.
They didn't really do much. I used them. They didn't really do much for me. So I was like, oh, forget it. Some people it makes it worse. Some people it makes it better. Some people no different. I did McKenzie. So in the morning, I remember I still I'd literally roll out of bed and I'd go into my forearms for like 2 minutes
Okay.
and didn't hurt me. So I just kept it up through the full kind of 6 months. It just became part of the routine, that I would do. But I do know that it can be if somebody's got what do you call it? My brain's gone blank, but basically where your the vertebra, pinches the other vertebra at the back of the spine, it's not good for them if they've got that condition.
Okay.
Stenosis. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the
Stenosis.
right
Yeah.
word. Yeah, if there's stenosis, but I think I do have mild stenosis, but it doesn't affect me. But yeah, McKenzie, yeah, used it a little bit, and I do use it with clients. If it helps them. If not, I just take it out and give them something
Okay.
else. You know.
So since your injury though, it sounds like you have maybe refocused your own business to focus on herniated disc. Is that
Yeah.
right?
So what happened? So when I went back, so physiatrist, gives me the injection.
Mhm.
Um, sciatica pain's really bad, and then obviously I'm doing the work with the French guy Guy, and I'm returning pretty quick. Like so I go back, I guess, for a 3 monthly or a 2 monthly, whatever it was, checkup with the doctor, and he's like, "Wow," he said, "like you've been doing amazing. This is crazy. Like your movement and da da da." So he started to send me people. He started to refer me people to come to see me because I explained to him. I said, "Well, look, this is what I'm actually doing, and this is the sort of type of methodology." And he understood the physiology behind it, like the decompression work, etc.
Mhm.
So he was like, "Wow, that's amazing. I'm going to send you people." So he started to send me more people, which of course you want to help these people, right? So you want
Right.
to expand your knowledge and you dig more into the literature and what works, etc. So yeah, we started to get people coming in just to see me and work with me on the lower back side of things, which was really cool. Then so that was kind of US, but even when I came over here to Czech Republic, I was in the gym one day speaking to a regular guy, and he said, "Oh, I've had this back problem for whatever. I've seen everybody, blah 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 blah." Okay, I'm like, "Well, okay." I said, "Look, I'll give you an hour of my time. If you will do what I tell you to do, see me." So I met him, gave him some stuff to do, his pain was like, I think it was less than 2 weeks. He felt great. So he told his neurologist who wanted to see me. Right? She's like, who is this
Okay.
person? So I went to see her, and she spoke good English as well. So I said, look, this is the physiology behind it. She, yeah, it makes perfect sense, And then she started to send me people as well. So for about a few years, I was getting all these people coming in from her, and it was cool because there was people you would see them maybe twice, three times, and I'd be like, "Look, just keep doing this, this, and this, and you should be fine, right? If you need to come back." I never saw them. I think never saw them again. So that's a good sign, like
Yeah.
they got better. There was one guy would send me people because I'd get a phone call and be like, "Oh yeah, George, blah blah blah, the martial arts guy," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's something like 4 years ago or something." Yeah, he told me to come and see you at my back and stuff. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So excuse me, he obviously got a good result and he's recommended me. But yeah, so that's because you can relate to people better as well. You can relate to what they're going through,
Right.
and you can understand when somebody says to them, or when they say to me, my physio told me to do this, but I didn't want to do it, and he's never had a bad back before, so what does he know? That's quite often a lot of what I'll get. You want the person to be comfortable doing what you tell them to do.
Right.
But yeah, the empathy thing is very big, I think, with this type of injury.
Definitely.
Yeah.
One of the people I see a lot on, the forums are mothers who are
Mm.
just so sad because they can't pick up their toddler.
Oh,
You have any tips for moms looking to pick up their kids?
yeah. So basically, I just had this literally 2 weeks ago. I had a mother breakdown.
Mhm.
We're on the call on our weekly call, and it's she's got three little ones, and yeah, it's really hard. So what I did, and because obviously you look at it from a logical perspective, right? And I look at everything from like biomechanics and movement. So obviously, depending on the age of the kids, right? This is the big thing. Getting down there, obviously using a split squat, where
Okay.
you split the feet, like so you kind of drop down to their level
Okay.
is obviously instead of bending down. So using a split
Mhm.
squat to get down onto the floor, having your hand on either the wall or the couch beside you is really useful as a support, both to get up off the floor and get back down again in that split squat position. And then I taught her, like, when she's on the floor, like, how does she play with the kids? Like, what's the best way to do stuff? Because she ends up sitting, what did she say? I think it was Indian. No, she sits. I think she said she sat on her, was it Indian style or on her knees, maybe? And I said, look, you can go on all fours. Like, you know how you start the bird dog exercise? I know
Mhm.
we're on podcast, so people can't see me, but
Right.
you're on all fours, right? But in that position, the way the gravity acts, it's acting like through your spine, not down in your spine. You can actually go on all fours. You can use one hand to, like, I don't know, depends on the age of the kid, but drive a car, like, like
Right.
push the dog, whatever. It's like a toy dog, not a real dog, toy
Right.
dog. But you've got 3 points of support, and you can you can go forward in your hand, you can push back on your hips, so you can position yourself. The other way that she tried and was good for her, it depends a bit on your hip flexibility, but if you sit on the floor, like you sit on your bum and you open your legs really wide and you're playing with your kid between your legs, you can keep yourself quite upright whilst playing with the child, and your spine is in quite a nice neutral, almost extended position. Sometimes, so if you do Indian style and you cross your legs, then you've got your legs in front of you. So if you have to go forward, you tend to flex forward.
Yeah.
Whereas
Right.
if you can open your legs wide, then you can kind of position yourself forward. And you can keep a more upright spine.
Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, it's little, and that really helped her. She's, oh, that was, I tried it, it was much better, and it felt better on my my body and stuff, and it was hugely motivating because she could actually I'd do a bit more with the kids,
Yeah, that's
and
great.
obviously, depending on how old the kid is and lifting it, that can be a process. If you've got a newborn baby and you've got the crib, obviously
Right.
trying to get the crib at a certain height, or either you lift yourself up or push it, like put yourself down. You have to sort of, it sounds stupid, but look at the problem from a kind of engineering perspective. Like, how
Mhm.
do I get into this position?
Right.
What tools have I got? What things could I use to give me support? Because that's one of the things I talk about in my system, the BASH system, is support, is using stuff in your home to support your body as you're doing stuff, and put your shoes
Mhm.
on, playing with the kids, walk the dog, wherever it could be, vacuuming. But yeah, I know it's a tough one, but yeah, split squats and
Yeah.
changing how you play on the ground with the kids is very useful when it comes to trying to help mothers like that.
Awesome. You mentioned your system. What do you want the listeners to know about your system?
I mean, I don't, it's like it's not rocket science, right? So I was trying to think of what I was going to call it, right? So I called it the bash methodology, like bash back pain, like hit it away, bash it away. And the bash B stands for bracing, the A stands for avoiding flexion before noon. I'll come on to that in a minute. S for support, and H for hip hinging. And I harp on about this a lot, and I'm sure you'll probably know that you can have the best rehab program in the world with the best guy, whatever. But it doesn't matter if you see them 3, 4, 5 times a week. If you don't follow through on the rest of the other 160 odd hours of the week,
Mhm,
you're not going to get the result you're looking for. So the bash, the bracing is about every time you go to move or lift something, you brace, you tighten
mhm,
your core. I'll come back to A in a second. The S, the support, is about using a small bench to put your shoes on. It's using the couch to pull yourself up. And the H, the hip hinging, is about when you bend things and you go to pick, you hip hinge. You learn how to hip hinge, put the
mhm.
stress on your glutes and stuff like that.
Right.
Because I see this in the gym. Somebody will have a perfect lift, right? They go to put the weights away. They're like bending and twisting
Yeah.
their spine. And you're like, it's crazy. And the avoiding flexion one is really interesting because this research was done back in the 90s on chronic pain sufferers, where they just told them you're not allowed to flex your spine for the first 4 hours of the day. So pretty much up until lunch, for example. And they got huge pain relief and a reduction in pain intensity. And it was all from adjusting how they moved and avoiding flexion. Now, I use that a lot, and I said, guys, look, it's not for the rest of your life. It's
Mhm.
only till you get over this pain hump, so we
Okay.
can do the rehab, do X, Y, and Z. Then we have a base to strengthen from there, because the spine does flex. It's meant to flex, right?
Right.
But when you're in that acute injury stage, we want to avoid it and keep it, stress free. And avoiding things, especially first thing in the morning when your disc is at its largest, and it's more prone to issue if you do flex over and hurt it again. So I know it sounds quite simplistic, but that's where the kind of the BASH acronym came from, to make itself punchy, if you will.
Mhm.
But yeah, the program. I mean, I do have a program, but I'm going to change it because it's quite funny when you start work. So I work with people one to one, and the program, it would help all of them, but the people that have come to me more recently are kind of in the middle of it. So it would be too easy for some people. So I'm actually going to go away and change it and like
Okay.
make it more applicable. Yeah, yeah. It's what happens. You've got your own experience,
Right.
and you think, okay, but then when the people who actually come to you from a different avenue, they're at a different level, and they would actually benefit more from like more exercises actually, because they're kind of, most of them have done some sort of rehab, and they're at a stage where they've got the basics. They need more direction.
Mhm.
So the course is really helpful and it helps a lot of people, but I'm going to change it because yeah, you start
Yep.
finding that people want something different,
Yeah.
or not even that they want something different. It's just they need something different.
Right. Well, and
But
that's great that you're evolving with the needs that you're
yeah, yeah,
seeing.
of course. Yeah,
Mhm.
you have to. But yeah, I try to get results as quick as possible in
Mhm.
that, but it comes down to the underpinning, how you move, how you sleep, because if you don't get those basics down, doesn't
Yeah.
matter how good the program is, you're not going to have. You might get better, but it's going to take you a lot longer to get better. You
Right.
know,
Right.
so I'm pretty hard on them. Do
Well,
it.
it's unfortunate that you had to experience the herniated disc, but,
Yeah, of
it's
course. But
also
then
it's great
it
because
is.
now you're able to
Yeah.
to reach out and help other people, and you've
Yes.
made growth in your own personal career.
Definitely. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's really quite interesting. Like when you get into the weeds, as they say, how many people this affects and how
Mhm.
badly on the brain it will affect them, like mentally. It's just like,
Mentally.
wow,
Yeah, it
it's
is.
oof,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's another story
Yeah.
for another day.
I've been telling I tell people it's a mental challenge as much as it is physical, and
Oh
that
yeah,
you need to look at it as a challenge that you can overcome.
yes, yeah. I was thinking of writing a guide because my wife is actually a psychologist and she's very big on
Ooh, ask her if she wants to be interviewed on my podcast.
I can, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because she does. We talk a lot about CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's been used a lot with mindfulness with back pain with good results. And I
Oh,
was thinking of putting together a little self-help guide just for free, for people
yeah.
to
Mhm.
look at, because it is massive. And one of the main issues is if you break your arm or you hurt your knee, that's that one piece. It's here, right, or it's there,
Right,
your leg. When you hurt your lower back, every movement you do you feel it, right? You get up off
right.
the chair, you walk across the room, you play with your kid, you get in the car, you get out the car. You can't hide from it. It's
Right.
like it can be constant 24/7. Like it's so that is really tough on the brain.
Yeah. With, having the surgery, microdiscectomy,
Hmm.
the fear of re-herniating just lives in the front of it lives in my brain, and
Yeah,
it lives in a lot of people's brains.
it does. It
Um,
does. I know.
did you even though you didn't have the surgery,
Mhm.
did you still have that kind of mental struggle or fear?
Yeah, I'm a weird one. Not really.
No,
No,
okay.
it was weird. Like, even though I've got all these injuries, like I've never been fearful of doing more. Like, I don't mean I'm not fearful of injuring myself again, but I've not been fearful of my body giving out, basically.
Mhm.
You know, because it's almost like, okay, well, you know what to do, you know what it feels like for this to be this way. Because, for
Mhm.
example, my hip, for example, it should be operated on, but I don't. It's one of those. It takes like 6 to 9 month recovery. It's
Right.
like you can hurt it again. It's like forget it. I'll just keep it strong. But occasionally, if I do some exercise at a different angle, which I know I shouldn't do, but sometimes it happens just by whatever, it will flare up, and it will last maybe 3 days, maybe a week, 10 days, depending what we're doing.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, there it is again. But I know you do this exercise, you do that stretch, you leave it one day for full rest, you're back to normal. So I think the lucky thing I've got is the tools, you know what I mean, and the knowledge to be
Right.
able to bring myself back if necessary. Now, that's also a curse because recently when my hip did flare up, um, the usual protocol that I would use didn't work,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I'm like, okay, because that's really because you should know why is it not working. So then you start. So what I did was I actually went into physiology books and I was looking at the actions of particular muscles in the hip, and I was like, right, okay, it does this. If I do that, that will make it tighter. So I went and created an exercise myself, which actually helped. So it looks weird and I'm, whatever, but it actually helped my hip. So
Well,
yeah,
right.
sometimes it's good to know things. Sometimes it's not good to know too much,
Right.
right?
So I came across you on YouTube. So what
Hmm.
is your YouTube channel?
Yeah. So is this bash back pain? That's
Bash back
really
pain. Okay.
bash back pain. Yeah.
Mhm.
If they search that, it'll come up. And yeah, I
Is
mean,
that
it's
the same
definitely.
for your website as well?
Yes,
Okay.
bashbackpain.com. Yeah. It's definitely, YouTube is a medium that people, when they have an injury or issue, they go, how do I
Yep.
do whatever? So
Yep.
it comes up a lot. And I've enjoyed it. It's changed a lot, like you change your format, you change what you present. I try to I just be myself. I honestly, I don't script pretty much. I might have a few keywords that I'm going to go
Mhm.
through, but I usually speak from my brain. I just speak from what I know, and like different things have happened that I've experienced. So I try to come across as natural because I want to be
Right.
amenable and natural and approachable,
Right.
but and just try to give away as much as possible because people will ask, workouts and how do you do this and what,
Mhm.
and again, one of my popular, I think it was reasonably popular, was you go to physiotherapy and you do exercises on the floor, right? You do the bird dog on the floor, you do plank on the floor. And I said, well, what if you, like one guy said, well, my mom's 85, she can't get on the floor.
Mhm.
So I went and did a series on standing core exercise you can do
Oh, okay,
standing,
great.
right? So it's little thing because some physios, they don't know, I don't know why, you have to adapt exercises for people who have an issue with their knee or their elbow, etc., their hips. So I've put a lot of videos together which are adapting classic exercises that we may called to into sort of adapt them so everybody can do them, no matter if you've got
Mhm.
arthritis in your hips or you can't get on the ground or you're in bed or whatever. So
Right.
yeah, I enjoy YouTube. I like it.
Good. But you also offer an online program, is that correct?
Yeah, I do this 21 day because I was trying from experience for most people. depending on the issue you have, and this is the same for like bruises and strains, you've got a kind of 10 to 21 day period where you can do a lot of work and you can bring somebody a lot of relief if you do everything kind of correctly.
Okay.
So I thought 21 days is enough to get people some good benefit, and in some cases they may be pain free. So I put together this video course, which they get sent to them by email. They have a full list of what they're supposed to do, and the video, I actually do the video minute by minute. I do the exercises with them, so it's me
Oh,
actually
great.
recorded. But it's okay. We're going, and I do the stretches for the time. I do the repetitions for the reps. So it's like I'm working with you all the way through, basically for 3 weeks. But that's when I'm thinking of tweaking and changing, because I want to
Mhm.
change things around a little bit on it. But yeah, no, a lot of people ask about it. A few people are on it, and that's also feedback. Was like, yeah, I'm going to make this harder actually, because most people they're past the stage that they need more, So,
Right.
but yeah, it's
That's
been really
great.
helpful. So I do the course. I'll work with people as well, individually as well, which is good.
Okay. So they don't have to come to the check to work with you.
No, it's amazing. Modern technology now, I
Mhm.
have video library, so I have a stretching video library, and I put the program together. They get a link to their library, and it's me, and they can download it on their phone. So they've got the exercise they can watch. They've got the sheet they fill in, follow. We talk once a week,
Okay.
feedback. I use a chat application, so you can basically, if it's something immediate, here's
Mhm.
a quick video, here's instant feedback, and then I try to get them to get. They don't though. But you need to push them about to go into Facebook and post in the group. So
Okay.
you have that camaraderie thing
Yeah.
going, which can be
Mhm.
really, really useful. But it's a work in progress. It's a,
Mhm.
I didn't start this initially with thinking it would be potentially, you'd be helping a lot of people, and you'd maybe
Mhm.
make money at it at the same time, but
Mhm.
actually help people and do something you
Right.
enjoy. But it's starting to go that way, which is nice. It's just totally nice.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's nice to see people get better.
That's great. Any app considerations? Starting your own app?
Yeah, no, I mean, what's that one? You probably know it. It's called. There is
There's
one.
Ladder, that's a workout app.
There's
Um,
the back one, but it's not what you think. Exercise. It's more like I think it's more like behavior modification and more of a kind of mental health. But
okay.
they geared it towards back, like low back pain, I
Oh,
think. But no, I've not. Well, I thought about it, but it's quite extensive. It's a lot of work,
probably. Yeah.
a lot of money. I think it's about 40, 50 grand for one of those. I
Oh,
think.
geez.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could maybe somebody
YouTube's
could.
great.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not even, like it's worth 1,000 subscribers or something like that.
Right.
So it's a long way to go before we're making any
Right.
money on YouTube.
Right. Well, do you have any final, bits of advice or anything you'd like to say to anyone who's currently in pain and
Yeah, I mean, you have to. It's very easy to get lost in the weeds with all the information on the
Mhm.
internet, YouTube, etc. But you want to. I would say find somebody who's been there before, or find a qualified person who does have physiotherapy background. Stick with some process that you're doing, and be religious with it, like practice it every day, every second day, um because that will help. And it's like, I say to people, look, if you choose a modality, if you choose physiotherapy, if you choose osteopathy, if you choose physiotherapy, and you're not feeling some relief after 5 or 6 sessions, it's
Mhm.
not for you. You want to change to
Okay.
something else. But
Okay.
you've got to give it enough time
Right.
to see if you get a result from it. And there are plenty of people out there who recover. Majority of people do recover. It's just that when you go online, people go to share their bad restaurant experience, to go to complain about something. So they're going
Right.
to go, and they're going to want to share their pity because they want
Right.
people to feel sorry for them. That's this human nature. So I would say, don't don't search these things, and be very conscious of how you move. Like that, I call it spine hygiene. Like, especially first thing in the morning, take it easy for the first few hours. Don't flex your spine. Don't do any heavy lifting. Take the garbage out in the evening, or get the kids to do it. Right, give them some pocket money. But yeah, especially that first 4 hours of the day, you try to avoid flexion if you're in that pain acute phase. Definitely, yeah.
Well, Colin, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. It has been a pleasure to speak with you, and you have given us so much information, a wealth of information. Listeners, if you're interested, go check out Bash Back Pain on YouTube or on bashbackpain.com. Is that correct? Great.
That's correct. Yep, that's
Right.
it. Thank you very much.
And if you're interested in hearing more positive stories of recovery, then be sure to subscribe to my podcast, Bed Back and Beyond. Thank you again, Colin.
Thank you very much. Lovely being here.